Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be doing the biggest cycle that we've done so far. We're actually doing 2 cycles for the one video. As you can gather, that means that the video will be a bit longer, but you're going to get to see so many different items come out of the freeze dryer. And if you checked out our last video, I had hoped to do that, and it just got way too late, and we're already ahead of the game because it's still daylight out and a beautiful day, and I knew that this was a good day to go ahead and do this. It's officially fall now, and it seemed like the summer went by quickly, and it also seemed like it took forever. Obviously, if you followed my journey at all, I had an arm injury right at the beginning, and now we're doing so much better. I can lift both arms. That's all that I can ask for, and you know, doing well. But we are going to start our first cycle, and if you are not sure what that means, we're going to be putting 4 trays into the freeze dryer today to run its magic and get all that moisture out and make everything as dry as possible. And then we're going to do a selected defrost on our unit. We have not gotten to do that yet. It's something that I've been really wanting to, but wanting to see that process. You can't just have it run at night if you're wanting to see what it looks like. So I'm going to try to check in with the freeze dryer as it's going through that to see how quickly it breaks down the ice buildup that occurs in that cylinder in the freeze dryer. And obviously my questions are how hot it gets in there and how long it takes. And then once that's done, we will run another cycle immediately after that. And that's probably how a lot of people do this that are constantly freeze drying. They are running a cycle, using the defrost, running the cycle, doing the defrost. And we have been running a cycle and a natural defrost, and you know, a few days to a week later we run another cycle. So this will be a first time, and maybe something that we get hooked on doing dependent on how it goes. But I will move over to the freeze dryer to get it cooled down and get those first 4 trays of our first of 2 cycles that we're going to do for the video today. We'll go ahead and latch our door closed and press start on the screen. That starts the condenser to cool down the unit. It doesn't get freezing, it just gets cool enough to start the process. If you've been following along with our freeze drying adventures, you'll recognize some of these items that we've done before, but some we have not. So our top tray and a good majority of our end tray here are peaches. We have done peaches before, but I don't think that we have done fresh. We got the opportunity to go peach picking, and these were kind of the battered and beaten ones of the group, but it does not stop the flavor because they are delicious, and I can't wait to see how they turn out. We did leave the skin on, but you know, made sure that they were thoroughly cleaned, of course. There's probably about 7 to 8 peaches here, and I think we'll have a good outcome. Shared on that, and with our other tray here are some halved cherries. It is something that we love, and obviously my fingers got pretty stained from cutting it up. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they turn out and how sweet they taste. They always have such a great flavor, and it should be a nice new fruit for us to try, as well as cantaloupe this time. I'm not sure the texture of it, because obviously cantaloupe being just so juicy and just a very specific texture, I'm not sure how we'll like it flavor-wise when it comes out, but we're going to find out no matter what. Our pineapple has turned out great every time. Both of these were just like the perfect picked piece of fruit that we sliced up, so I think it'll go well. On our last tray here, we have the most different items. Starting are the biggest blackberries and blueberries I have ever seen. So big that I had to either half or third both of them. And I'm hoping this time that we'll have a good outcome for our blueberries. It's something that I've kind of struggled with when we ran like mixed cycles like we always do. I feel like the freeze dryer has a hard time kind of breaking through that skin to pull the moisture out, so this should really help. I also would really like to incorporate these into some recipes, like for bagels or muffins, instead of chowing down on them, so we'll see if we get to use those for additions in the future. And our last 3 items we have here, there is a cut up lime. I forget what we used it for, but I just went ahead and sliced up the rest. I didn't get as diverse how we did with the lemon, with dividing it from rind, from meat and peel and all of that. So we just kept it simple. I'm really intrigued to see how it turns out. It's not going to be as useful as lemons have been for us in recipes and drinks and stuff like that, but it's still going to turn out great, I'm sure. Our last 2 items at the bottom here are jalapenos. We did those in our last video. They were great. If you're not a spicy fan, obviously it's not probably something that you're going to like, but we are running through them pretty quickly. If you saw our last short video we did, we incorporated some into our sourdough bread and have been doing it in our guacamole, and it's great. It's so nice. They're already prepped, ready to go, and essentially fresh. And our last item, not really my favorite thing, but it's a red hot chili pepper, and my dad actually wanted me to give it a whirl. He does some beer making and does a nice spicy beer. That's pretty much the extent of my knowledge of it, as I'm not a big beer lover or things that are super hot, but he gets compliments all the time and he loves it. So we're going to freeze dry a really hot pepper today, and we'll go ahead and get all of this stuff in and start our first of the 2 cycles. So like I said, once we started our cycle, it does a pre-chill essentially, and we're about at 55 degrees right now, and it tells you to load the freezer with your food and then close the drain valve. Those peppers smell pretty spicy. Got our drain valve closed and our food is in, door is closed. We can press continue on the screen to start the cycle. Well, we got our first of 2 cycles started officially, and the machine is doing its cool down continued, so that's a fantastic sign. I appreciate you watching all the things that we're putting out so far. Obviously, this is a longer video, so thanks for checking it out. We have lots of things pumping out of the freeze dryer today, so hopefully it's something of interest to you, or something that you might want to do yourself if you are using a freeze dryer yourself. But we will let the freeze dryer do its thing and check back tomorrow and see how it turned out. It's the next day, and at over 25 hours our cycle is complete. I was so wrong about the length of time that it was going to take. I really thought 16 to 18 hours, we're going to be good, we're going to gain time on our double cycle video that we're doing, and nope, wrong. It's 7 o'clock. We're probably going to have another late evening again, but we won't dwell on it too much. My hope is that the food is nice and crispy dry. We can take everything out at once, press that defrost button, and let it run while we're packaging our food, and I can check on it while I'm down here to, you know, do 2 birds and 1 stone. But we will move over to the freeze dryer to release that pressure, get in there, and start this next step of packaging. Go ahead and release that pressure. Open up our door and check and see how our food is feeling. These are our peaches that I'm looking at first. Our first tray, it's full of them, and they feel very good, so we'll put those down. Our next tray are the remainder of peaches that we had, and the bean cherries. Lots of bubbling that happened because they are so sweet. That one actually is soft. Everything else feels good right there. Let's continue to check and we'll assess that one cherry here in a moment. This tray had all of our pineapple, which I'm gathering probably was the culprit, and the cantaloupe, because they have shrank so much. Our cherries, since we just had our smushy one with our last bit, I do want to make sure that those are some of those are still mushy, so we will look at those a little bit more. The last tray pulling out were our blackberries, blueberries, limes, our red hot chili pepper, and our jalapenos. All of these feel really good. Our limes feel great. I'm not really going to mess with this pepper too much, but it feels good. And the pepper and the jalapenos do too. So we'll move on to our next step. So now that we have all of our food out and I'm confident with the things that are dry, I'm gonna kind of look into those cherries a bit more to see what the issue was. But we'll go ahead and close our door. And on the screen it has the option of no defrost, which would just turn the machine off, which is normally what we've done in all of our other videos. Or you have the other opposite is to defrost. So I've gone ahead and closed it. Our drain valve is open and the hose is in the bucket. So we'll hit defrost. So the unit turned off, and it says to keep the drain valve open and remove product from dryer and close the door. So we've obviously already removed our product. Our drain valve is open and we can now press continue on the screen. On the screen now it is switched to defrosting chamber and keep door closed, and it has a timer going down from 2 hours time. So if that's the amount of time this takes, that works out pretty well for my current situation. And the temperature gauge has gone up already 5 degrees just since I've been reading this. So the thickness of the ice is not the thickest I've seen still, even though it was the longest cycle we have ran to date. But I will try to capture a picture and put that on the screen for you to see what it currently looks like. The unit has been cooling down for about 5 minutes. It's 138 degrees in there, so hopefully it only takes 2 hours and we can start another cycle as soon as it's done. But we'll move back to our current fruit that we have here, as well as a couple other things. But I definitely do want to do some taste testing and see how everything is. I am a little concerned about our cherries, but because of time restraints, I just cannot let the cycle go longer just because of the few that we've done in this cycle right here. So we will check some of those out, but we'll go ahead and focus on the things that we know are done and get those packaged up. So we'll probably go ahead and start with the peaches and combine the cherries with the other ones just to get 2 trays out of the way pretty quickly. We will go ahead and fill up this jar with as many peaches as we can, and whatever is left is going to go into a Mylar bag, and I am going to be giving it to one of the physical therapists that has been helping me through an oh so fun time with my arm. But we have had so much fun with him when Filson comes. They play so much and he makes it fun for him, and that's pretty much all that matters when it comes to healing at this point. So we will get our peaches packed up in here and move on to our Mylar bag and then our other items. Our jar of peaches. Alright, so we have our Mylar bag to fill with peaches, and I will be putting an oxygen absorber in it. Obviously, I'm not sure when they will be consumed and used, but I do want to make sure that it's going to somebody else, that it is of the best quality, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So we have our bag filled, and I'll put that oxygen absorber in when we go to package, so we'll get everything else kind of in its place as needed and do that at the end. I did save one aside since we have not done fresh peaches before. It is definitely a different flavor than the canned peaches. Obviously, those were skinless. That's going to be a huge difference in this case. Obviously, I was thinking like we're keeping more of that nutritional value on the fruit. It's good, but not as probably good as the canned peach, unfortunately. But rehydrating it would be kind of fun, maybe for cooking. Put a little milk in there and like some cinnamon and maple syrup and kind of cook that over the stove, and you're probably talking about an amazing, delicious snack. So but it is very good. It just different, maybe not as good as the canned peach if you're going to eat it in this specific state. So we will continue on to our next tray, and I'll move these ones out of the way. I've gone ahead and also checked our freeze dryer. We are currently at 153 degrees now, so it's going well. I don't see a lot of change in the ice, but I'm sure it just takes a little bit to get to that point. So we will move on to our final two trays. Our pineapple, cantaloupe, and then the cherries. So we'll see how those go. We'll definitely be tasting everything and move from there. A lot of this fruit, at least for sure, the things that are all dry will go in together. Obviously confirming that it is all dry. Those cherries are definitely a unique situation. They are very sticky, in addition to some of them being kind of smushy still. So we'll look at those here in a bit, but we'll go ahead and focus probably on our cantaloupe, our pineapple, and those blackberries. Dependent on space, the blueberries might go into a different container because my anticipation is to not use them for eating, but like I said earlier, as additions or inclusions in other food items. So I'll do a taste test on this cantaloupe here when we are done putting it in the jar, as well as same with pineapple and our other fruit items. It didn't stick too bad, just bad enough. The thing that I'm noticing the most is the cantaloupe has very sharp corners. It is like a perfect triangle, but those are pretty spiky. So we'll see how that goes in regards for Filson, because obviously, you know, kid just kind of just shoves things in their mouth. So the pineapple, as usual, is crispy and very crunchy. Same kind of scenario. I'm guessing since we had issues with the cherries, even though they were cut in half, I'm still so surprised. Everything just feels way more dry than usual. Alright, so pineapple in, and last that I'm hoping I can fit are the blackberries. They feel really good. Little smushing of them down there. We'll set just a double aside, and that fit perfectly. So we have our cantaloupe, pineapple, and blackberries in there. We'll go ahead and try our set-asides here. We'll do our cantaloupe first with our three-sided weapon. It tastes just like cantaloupe without all the juiciness, and it just tastes not real, almost like a fake flavoring. And as it's kind of mellowing in my mouth, like it tastes like I just ate a regular piece of cantaloupe. So our pineapple, we've done many times, is really dense. The flavor profile between those two are complete opposites, but very good. Always kind of like that extra tangy. I'm sure my face is giving just a different idea that it tastes bad, but it's very good. Just you get that kind of sour punch. Get ready for the blackberry. Those are so good. It tastes like I'm eating blackberry jam. There was so much flavor in there. Oh my gosh, it was so good. You really get a lot of those seeds There's no hiding behind that, because obviously when it comes to a fresh berry, when you have that juice, it kind of helps that seed migrate away from your teeth. When you don't have any of that, they pretty much go directly into your molars. Oh my gosh, that was so good. I love that. Since we're right here and I'm gonna move on to our blueberries, I am gonna try one of the cherries while we're doing that. We'll find one of those squishy ones first. Not great, okay. Almost tastes like candy. Got my thumb. I can't find one that was squishy anymore. It tastes like a gummy cherry or something. They're good, obviously. Really interesting. We'll get our blueberries packaged up while I'm contemplating that. Blueberries in our jar. So filled about halfway. I saved one. I always find interesting that like when you cook a blueberry, the whole thing becomes like blue to purple inside, but these blueberries are like a white flesh, and I wasn't sure. I just find that interesting, but oh man, that gets you. That was a very tangy blueberry. Probably in comparison of these cherries, which I am loving. They're really good. We'll go ahead and package up our lime next, and then the jalapenos and our hot chili pepper will go into a container together. I will sacrifice a bit of one of these limes to try, since we have not done these before. Trying to carefully separate them. We'll just break off a little bit of it to try. Just there we go. So we've got a bit of the rind and a bit of the meat. This is probably going to be rough. Not as bad as I was anticipating, but a very good flavor. Though, I mean, that would just be great in a drink. I know I say that a lot. When it comes to citrus, my mind immediately goes to like freshening up iced tea or just plain water. Obviously you can let your mind wander with how much you could potent a drink up, be it alcohol or not, but if you were making some kind of like a key lime thing, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. And that sprinkled on top, like crushed on there, or just freeze drying limes to have on top of each piece that you pass out or something, would be a real beautiful thing. So we have our jalapenos in here, and we have our, ooh, this is live video. I just picked up upside down and all the seeds went everywhere. So this is our red hot chili pepper. I'm not going to mess with it too much, but it is, I don't know if you can hear it, but it is, it almost sounds fake. So we'll put that in there, and I'm going to clean up all these seeds really fast. Oh no, what's happening? Why is this happening? So as we're running our defrost and we are about 30 minutes into it, we have a little bit of pooling of water on our table right here. I'm going to wipe it up with a washcloth and then put a paper towel under there to see if maybe that was just some condensation from the front, and since we're so warm in the unit, or if it's an issue of leaking from, you know, an inaccurate spot. So it's not too much. It's probably like a tablespoon of water, something like that. So I have seen lots of other water go down through our drain valve out into our bucket. So we will get this cleaned up and continue our process of packaging. So I went and finished cleaning up our little leak that we had. I am not sure, like I said, if it's something that was condensation or just a path of least resistance and the water found a different way out. So I went ahead and cleaned it up with a washcloth and then put a paper towel under to watch and see if you see any other absorption. But in the meantime, I went and got our impulse sealer out and ran upstairs and got this little container for those cherries. They probably won't make it through the night. We'll probably eat them. So they're really good. Probably won't do them again past this video just because that's more than likely what took all that time. So we will go ahead and package up our peaches and get on to our next stage after that. Reseal our bag, adjust to 4 to 5 range, and reseal. Nice and warm and sealed across. Get our peaches down, our oxygen absorber in, and change our dial back to a 7-8 range. And I am going to seal this twice, and I will be sure to tell Troy that there is an oxygen absorber in here. I'll probably write it on the bag so he knows that he is nice and protected from anything. And this is probably the first time that we are giving anything to somebody else to try. I'm excited. I hope that he likes it and hope that he realizes how much he has helped me out over the last few months. But we are double sealed above and below that notch and all packaged and ready to go. Okay, we're about 40 minutes into our defrost. It's 145 degrees in there right now. We're getting a steady flow of dripping to a small stream of water coming out of our hose. So that's all a good sign. I noticed I could hear it a little bit, and I actually had to pull the hose out a teensy bit because there just wasn't enough of a decline to let that water release easily. Obviously it was probably pressing out because of gravity and just the amount of water that was behind there. So that's something that I'll keep an eye on as this process continues. Our food turned out pretty well. The cherries obviously didn't get fully dried, and they were the culprit, like I said, of it being a long cycle. They are delicious nonetheless, but not something we'll probably do in the future. Our other items I am looking forward to having, and mostly all of that will be for our just pantry storage to use. We'll add the jalapenos to our previous ones that we have left over for guacamole or bread baking or anything else like that, nachos and stuff. And the red pepper will go to my dad for his beer making, like I had mentioned. I will not partake in that because that kind of spice is just not my thing, but it was a good first cycle of our 2. We will check back in a little bit to see how this defrost is going and move on to our next set of trays for our second cycle for the video. A recap of the defrost process that we have just now completed. We left with about an hour and a half left, and I checked it probably 2 to 3 times to make sure there was no more leaking, and good news, there was no more. So hopefully that was just a fluke or just extra condensation that had built up somewhere else. But our paper towel was dry every single time and still is, so that was good. When I checked, I also confirmed temperatures. We stayed around 145 to 155 degrees from what I could tell, and when I came down probably close to 20 minutes left when the cycle was about to be done of defrosting, it gave the option to add additional time, which I did because we were still cleaning up and finishing dinner. So that was nice, so you could have it dry thoroughly until you were ready to do it, or just kind of let it go. But 2 hours was the start time that it did, and I'm sure based on how much buildup you had, you could, you know, increase or decrease that as desired. But it is now done, so we can start our next cycle. I'm super excited about that. The only other thing that I want to mention is, I'm not sure if it's length of hose, but from what I could tell, every time I did come down, the coiled hose that's inside of the unit that you can kind of just see coming out of the side, it doesn't have enough pull to give it that good angle. And of course, you know, we have a pretty flimsy hose that came with it. I feel like it could be more rigid and that would help, but every time I came down I needed to pull on it to give it a more straight decline, and we would get a really good water flow. So there is some water still in that hose, probably more in the secondary after the valve opening, but I might remove that overnight once we start this cycle to maybe put the fan on it, make sure that there is no moisture left in, because since we are running a cycle so close, it might not have the ability to dry out that water in there in the time when it's done, and you do not want moisture left in that hose when you go to release the pressure to open up after cycle's done. If there is any moisture, or if that hose comes into contact with any water and you open it, it's going to suck that water right back in because it is pulling air in to release the pressure on the door. So all things to keep in mind. Obviously my mind always is very afraid of doing that, so it's always my #1 priority. But I digress. We will move into starting our second cycle, and I will show you the food before we go in for this last little bit. So our unit is completely off, and just like normal, we are going to do a pre-chill. It probably will take a little longer because it is so warm in there. I'm going to open this so you can see there's some of that moisture left on there. The door it's not hot, but it feels just nice and warm. So I'll probably wipe that off with a paper towel that I have here, just so it doesn't get too dirty. But it smells so much of pineapple in here. It smells good. It smells tropical. But probably after this cycle we could stand to do a little bit of cleanup on our unit. But the shelving in here is warm to the touch, but not hot to burn. So we will go ahead and close our door and press start to do our 15-minute cool down as we usually would. Alright, here is our second round of food going in. We have pretty much almost all new things aside from bananas and a little bit of cilantro at the top. I'm going to try to work fast as the cilantro is already looking very wilty and defrosted, but we have had some booming green bean plants. So we've got beans on this tray and beans on this tray. They got divided because they wouldn't all fit on one. I actually squeezed these over because I had a ton of cilantro and we needed to put some away to continue our guacamole making. But I am super excited. It's a lot of peppers. Obviously we are of that time. Summer is on its way out, but we are still seeing it in the way of produce. We've got Poblano peppers. We do a really good enchilada sauce, and it has been one of our favorites recently. But that's probably about 4 Poblano peppers, and it'll probably be even better once it's freeze dried, because then we could break it down into a powder and then add it to that sauce. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. Shared on that, we have squash and zucchini. I decided not to do the flour. I love that cake, but I also wanted to try cubing it up and doing it for soups, or, you know, maybe sauteing it in some butter and seeing how it kind of reconstitutes as we're cooking. As I said, bananas and our green beans. We have tons of sweet peppers, a beautiful orange and red color. There's probably close to like 8, 9 maybe on here, but I think that those would be good on, you know, in tacos or nachos, in salads, all these things that would be just delicious additions for that pop of flavor. If you're not in the mood to prep a bunch of stuff, hey, there you go, you got it. And the one that I'm really excited about this time is some angel food cake. There's a local farm by us, and they have people bring in baked goods all the time to sell. And this angel food cake looked delicious, and Philson and I could not resist. So we went ahead and got one of those, and we have tons of it left, but obviously I wanted to try just a little bit to see how it turns out. So we have a dessert item going in. I anticipate it to be almost like how cotton candy is. When you put that in your mouth, it like dissolves and just kind of melts away, but with a hardened state of, I'm not sure, but we'll find out. And we'll go ahead and get all of these in, and hopefully it won't take that long like the first cycle did. So we've reached our 15-minute cool down. It's still pretty warm in there. It's 83 degrees, but once we hit that button, it'll really start to drop that temperature fast because it'll turn on the condenser and get it cold. I can already see some frost building up on the side, which obviously when we are normally doing it would not be normal because there wouldn't be any moisture at all in there. But we will go ahead and get our food in so we can get it cold again. Our drain valve is now closed, and we will press continue. And the temperature is dropping really quickly. It's exactly what I wanted to see. We have our second cycle started now, and it's already dropped 15 degrees in just a few moments. So that's exactly what I was hoping it would do. So my mind is at ease with the temperature change. Obviously, just a little bit ago, it was colder out here than it and hotter in the unit, and now that's flipped, so that's perfect. Also, something to keep in mind, this late again, this is after 10 p.m. now, and if this cycle would happen to run as long as the first one did, we would be around 11 p.m. or later for tomorrow. So here's hoping that that does not happen and it's faster, but I know that we are just kind of going with how long it takes, and we'll deal with it when it's done. But stick around to see how everything turns out. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the angel food cake turns out, as well as other things, but that is pretty cool and exciting, and I know that the boys will definitely love that. But we will see you tomorrow after some good rest, and hopefully not too late of a day. Well, we've got our freeze-drying crowns on, right?
Yes.
Yes. And we were just making a video about how we were going to have to add time on because it was too late. But little did we know, as we were looking at the screen, it said that it was complete. So we are going to get into the freeze dryer to package up all of our food. And of course, what better way to do that than with help from Philson? There is a teensy bit of moisture left in our hose, so I'm hoping when I release that pressure that does not affect our food in a negative light. So we will see how that goes, but let's move over to the freeze dryer and do all of our regular stuff before we package up the last of our food for this video. Woo! Woohoo! Okay, so I went ahead and I very carefully opened up that drain valve and actually pinched the hose to make sure that no water or moisture was going back through. So not sure how well it worked, but I didn't see anything go past where I was holding. But we will open the door as Philson is done here and get our food out. All right, so we have all of our food out now. How does it look, Philson? Good. It looks good. Do you remember what everything is? So we've got sweet peppers. We've got angel food cake. Hold on. We've got zucchini and squash and poblano peppers and green beans and cilantro and bananas.
Oh, can I try one?
Yeah, okay. You want to try the pepper? I guess that means that he's not the biggest fan of it, but it actually is really good. It's real light, a little bit of sweetness.
Let's try it out.
Hold on, I know. Also, everything is feeling nice and dry. That's exactly what we want as usual. So we will go ahead and turn off our unit. And we are not going to do a defrost. We're going to do it the old school, just room temp thaw out. And that's okay. But do you want to try the squash?
Oh, I gotta try one.
You got to try one?
Mmm.
Here. Oh, you're eating all up?
Mmm.
It doesn't taste like much. We're gonna save that for last. We won't try the Poblano Peppers. How about we try, you wanna try green bean?
Oh, yeah.
You wanna try a green bean first?
No?
Okay, you wanna try the angel food cake?
Yes.
Okay, mommy pick a piece. So obviously Filson is high sought after this. Take a bite. It's really crunchy. There you go.
Mm. It comes from Japan.
That's really good. It's not how I thought it was going to be at all. It's really good. I'm gonna have to sit with that for a little bit to see. But in the meantime, I'm gonna try a green bean with or without Filson. Oh, it tastes like air. We're gonna put the green beans in one of our Mylar bags.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Whoa.
Okay.
Okay, you're gonna help me? Thank you. We'll go ahead and add our cilantro into our container here with our other cilantro.
Oh.
Making a nice little disaster here. Someone's entertaining our pup down here, Lola, but we will go ahead and pack up our sweet peppers into our jar here. They feel pretty good. So we have all of our peppers packaged up, and I think they'll be great for tacos, nachos, and salads, and just add that nice crisp burst of flavor that we love to have. So that is all packaged up. Next, we'll go ahead and label our Mylar bag for the zucchini and squash. So in a rare moment of going through all of the food that we've done so far, I'm actually going to stop packaging, because really going through these things, when I first pulled them out, they felt fine, but a majority of these things are not done. So we are going to rerun this cycle. This might not be the right way to do it, but a lot of this stuff is still, this piece particularly, like it's too squishy. Like things, like some of the pieces are fine. Like,
It's
hold on,
squishy.
stop.
It's too squishy.
Thank you.
A little.
Like this one, it should break like that. That's what should happen, or break into like a powder. So this did not turn out quite how it.
Like a powder, it comes up like a full kind of.
So some of the things are done. The Poblano peppers are pretty crispy, so I might take those off and package them. Our bananas feel pretty firm, but our green beans, our zucchini and squash, no. The angel food cake, delicious. The peppers were fine, but we are going to rerun these. Can't risk the idea of having moisture in a package for long-term storage. Obviously, if I wanted to, I could just seal those and put them in the freezer, because it's keeping them, thank you, I love you too, it's keeping them cold, but that's not the idea. The idea is to have long-term storage for shelf storage down here. The angel food cake, by the way, is reminding me more of what I recall and remember that a Lucky Charms marshmallow kind of tastes like. But we are going to dump what I put in a bag back on these trays. I will get the bananas and the Poblano peppers put away in the angel food cake. Our green beans and our zucchini and squash are going back in. At this point, it's kind of a wash for being a useful thing, but this is where we are. All right, so we have our bags already made for hopefully when the cycle is done. Again, for tomorrow, we will go ahead and get the green beans and the zucchini and squash back in, and I tried to spread them out across 3 trays to give them a little extra space in case that helps at all, instead of having them really tight in there. So we are going to move back over to the freeze dryer, put these in, and start it up. So I'm probably breaking all sorts of cardinal rules here, but we are restarting our freeze dryer. It has not defrosted. It has not gone through a cool down. We're working on that part now, but all of our food actually is loaded in there already at this point. I'm just trying to salvage what we have to go in, and we will check back on that tomorrow. Next, we are going to impulse seal our Poblano Peppers. I'm not going to do an oxygen absorber because they were nice and crispy. I have no fear of that. So we will check back tomorrow and see how this whole messy process ends up. Yeah, see, we got it all sealed up. Now, this did not go how I planned. Let's close that drain valve. And here. A break from the freeze dryer is exactly what was needed, and 15 hours later, we are hopefully done. The unit is letting me know that it is completed, and I actually added extra time onto the cycle. I wasn't expecting that it was going to take long, but I just needed it to work in with a little bit of some schedule plans. But we will move over to the freeze dryer to get that pressure release check and actually confirm this time that our food is done, package it up, and hopefully there will be a little extra time at the end to do some closing remarks on mistakes that were made, and hopefully will be rectified in the future to help myself and you if you are doing anything with the Harvest Rate freeze dryer. So as I'm touching everything, it feels good. I don't feel any of that flimsiness or that cold on the food. I don't feel any squishiness on our squash and zucchini. It feels like it could just break in my hands. So that's pretty much what you're looking for, and what we did not have last night. My concern, though, at first was the coldness of the trays. They're ice cold. It came out of the freeze dryer at -14 degrees. Since I didn't come right down, it just kind of continues to go through a really cold temperature to a really hot temperature to keep things dry and frozen, dry and frozen. So we were at the frozen stage, but everything seems much better. Like, obviously we had green beans that were good, we had squash and zucchini that were good, but like at least 40% of this was not. But now, I believe with confidence, we have 100% good moisture-free food. So we will package up our food. It should go rather quickly since we already had things labeled and almost all backed up until I started to feel some of those bad pieces. So let's move to that and get packaging. Our zucchini and squash bag here, we will get all of that in. All right, squash and zucchini bagged. Now we will move on to our green bean trays. This is a nice full bag of green beans. We will go ahead and get our impulse sealer out to seal those up and finish packaging. Since I feel confident that our food is done for real, I will go ahead and turn off the freeze dryer. Got our green beans here. We will get those sealed up first. As usual, we are on a 7-8 range for our sealer. Our green beans are done. Squash and zucchini next. And the packaging is complete. Pretty pleased with the amount of things that we had come out of this, but it was not without its issue, as we saw throughout this whole process. just some catch points really quickly to end up and close our video. I am not a fan of the defrost. I like a natural defrost of just leaving the door ajar and letting it melt away on its own. I was too worried about the moisture in the hose. I don't think that that was the culprit for our issue with the green beans and squash and zucchini, but in the end I tried to get that hose off and I could not, and I was kind of afraid if I pulled too much would I be able to get it back on. And obviously when you are going to defrost, you need to have the ability to direct that water into a source, in our case a bucket. So in the future, unless we are in some kind of pinch and I get a secondary hose to switch out, we will not be using that feature, and we'll just let the freeze dryer do its thing and defrost on its own. Don't overfill your trays. Second point, mixing different things that have higher and lower amounts of moisture, not that great, especially in combination with overfilling the trays. These are not good things, all things to bear in mind. Use my cycle experiment as your guide, that unless you were going to add on lots of more time and let the machine just continue to go, which is what we should have done, it's probably not going to turn out, and you're going to need to put things back in to continue the cycle. Which of course brings us to our next one, is understand your intuition and really check your food thoroughly. I just kind of, I guess, got a little lazy, and with extra hands with Filson, I love having him help. It's super exciting to see him want to taste and try everything. Obviously there are things that he likes and then things he doesn't, but I was more excited to have him be a part of it and help when I should have just added more time on and we should have just gone to bed. These were all lessons learned and things that we will take with us for future videos, and I hope as a viewer, if you were doing this too, that you learn from the mistakes that we made in this video. But if you liked seeing how things went and you've checked out and seen our other videos, please subscribe if you haven't already, and you will be notified when future videos are set to premiere or post. But in the meantime, we will go ahead and get our Mylar bags placed on their long-term shelf and our jars upstairs with our other things for pantry use. And I hope that you are doing well, and we will see you in the next video. Bye!